Okay, so today we're going deep on two pretty amazing systems in the human body.
Yeah, two big ones.
The nervous system and the reproductive system.
Right.
And we've got some really interesting learning materials to dig into here.
Yeah.
And I think, the goal here is to really pull out the core functions of each and then how they kind of work together.
Yeah, I think it's about just kind of understanding the elegance, of these systems and how they operate.
Yeah.
And how they're really crucial to your survival and continuing on as a species.
Exactly. So what are the essential elements?
Right.
So first let's dive into the nervous system, this incredible network, right?
Yeah.
That sends information all throughout your body.
Yeah, it's like the communication hub of your body.
So it's like a superhighway
Yes.
of information with these specialized cells called neurons,
Right.
constantly firing signals between the brain and every single part of your body.
Exactly. And the key players there are the brain, the spinal cord, and then just the nerves that go everywhere.
Yeah. So what's its primary function then?
Well, its primary function is to coordinate, everything you do. So from thinking to moving and to process sensory information.
Yeah.
So everything that comes in from the outside world.
Yeah, all that sensory input.
Right.
So it's a lot of responsibility for one system, right?
It is a lot of responsibility, and that's why it's so, intricate and complex.
Okay, so to understand it better, let's break it down into its two main parts.
Okay.
So we've got the central nervous system, the CNS, which is the brain and spinal cord.
Right.
And then we have the peripheral nervous system, the PNS.
Right.
So the CNS is kind of like the main headquarters.
Yeah, it's like headquarters.
And then the PNS is all the
Well, the field offices.
Yeah, all the field offices, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start with the headquarters. That spinal cord that is like the main
That's like the trunk line.
trunk.
Yeah, it's like it's like a major cable of nerves that, runs down your back, and it's protected by your spine.
So it's like protected superhighway of information.
Yes.
Going from the brain to all parts of the body.
Right.
And then we have the brain, which is like the ultimate control center.
The ultimate control center. It's the organ that is really, taking all that information in making decisions, sending out instructions.
So it's constantly processing.
Yeah.
And deciding and coordinating.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing about it is, how fast it does that.
Yeah.
It's happening, every millisecond.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have the peripheral nervous system.
Right.
All those nerves branching out.
Yeah, all those nerves that extend outside the brain and spinal cord.
All the limbs and organs and tissue.
Yeah, and their job is to carry those messages back and forth.
So if you think about it,
Yeah.
like a thought originates in the brain,
Right.
goes down that spinal cord superhighway, and then it's the PNS that delivers that message to wherever it needs to go.
Exactly.
To tell your finger to twitch, to feel the pressure on your skin.
Right.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, and all that is happening, without you having to think about it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The nervous system has two types of functions, right?
Yeah.
The ones you consciously control and the ones that happen automatically.
Yeah.
So controlled, or what they call somatic
The
function.
somatic functions.
Would be like,
So that's like when you, decide to take a step
Exactly, yeah.
or reach for something.
And your body's like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Whereas the uncontrolled, or what they call autonomic functions, are, like you said, breathing,
Right, your heartbeat.
digestion,
What, Anna?
all these things that your body just does
It's tough to think about.
without you even thinking about it.
Exact.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And it's essential for life.
Okay, so let's talk about how we experience the world, through our senses.
Right.
The nervous system's obviously heavily involved in this.
Yeah, your senses are basically, your body's way of interacting with the world.
Right.
So you have your sense organs, your eyes, your ears, your skin, your tongue, your nose.
Yeah.
And they're constantly, detecting information.
Like stimuli.
From the environment.
Yeah, from the environment.
And then they send that information to your brain
Right.
through your nervous system.
So it's like they're detecting and then sending electrical impulses.
Exactly.
Which then get relayed to the sensory nervous system and then up to the brain.
To your brain.
For processing.
Right. And then, your brain interprets that information.
Makes sense of it.
Yeah, and tells you what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling.
So like a sound wave hitting your ear becomes the sensation of hearing in your brain.
Exactly.
It's pretty wild.
It is pretty wild.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, in our materials, we see some issues related to the nervous system that they bring up, like deafness, blindness, short-sightedness.
Right.
And those can all impact how
They impact your ability to experience the world.
yeah, how well those sense organs
Yeah.
are working and how well they can send that information
Exactly.
to the nervous system, to the brain.
And that can have, a big impact on your life.
For sure.
You know?
It also talks about the effects of drugs and alcohol in the brain.
Yeah, and that's something that's really important to understand.
It's not just about feeling good or bad. It's about
the actual damage.
yeah, it's about the damage that they can do.
They can do to your brain cells.
Yeah, and disrupting the nervous system, its
Right.
functioning,
Yeah.
leading to impairments in memory, coordination, judgment.
Yeah, and potentially addiction.
Yeah, and long-term damage.
Right. Long-term damage to the brain.
It's not something to take lightly.
No.
Absolutely, and then damage to the spinal cord as well.
Yeah, that can be devastating.
Because it's that main
It's that main communication pathway.
between the brain and the body.
Right.
So if that's injured,
Yeah.
it can interrupt the flow of signals.
It can lead to paralysis.
Paralysis or loss of sensation
Yeah.
below the injury.
Right.
It's a really, really big deal.
It is a really big deal, and it just shows you how important the spinal cord is.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So, and I guess similarly, if a sense organ is damaged,
Right.
like if an ear loses its ability to detect sound waves, then
Then you're not getting that information.
that information is not getting
to the brain.
to the brain.
Right.
So, it impacts.
It impacts your ability to hear, but it also impacts your balance,
Yeah.
your spatial awareness,
Yeah.
your ability to communicate.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's also interconnected,
It is all interconnected.
and it relies on all these parts working correctly.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so fascinating about the nervous system is how complex it is, but also how efficient it is.
It is incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
They really highlight that in the materials.
Yeah, the speed
Yeah.
at which signals are transmitted along neurons.
And then the processing power of the brain and spinal cord.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like this rapid communication network
Yeah.
that allows for...
It allows for quick reactions,
Yeah.
Precise movements.
It's essential
Yeah.
for survival.
For survival and just for everyday life.
Yeah, imagine if it took like
Yeah.
a minute
Yeah,
to
yeah.
react to something.
You'd be in trouble.
Yeah, you'd be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on now to the reproductive system,
Okay.
which is a completely different system,
Yeah.
but also essential.
Essential for a different reason.
Yeah, for the continuation of the species.
Right.
So, at the heart of it all,
Are the sex organs,
the sex organs.
which are specifically designed to allow for reproduction.
And it's important to remember that, this system can also
Be affected by
be affected by health issues.
Right.
So things like infertility,
fetal alcohol syndrome,
fetal alcohol syndrome,
sexually transmitted diseases like HIV,
gonorrhea, syphilis.
chlamydia. Yeah, all of these things.
These are all things that can be transmitted.
Transmitted during sex.
Right.
So it's really important
To be aware.
to be aware of them and take precautions.
To practice safe sex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the basics.
Okay.
The primary function of reproduction
Right.
is the fusion of,
The male and female gametes,
which are
the sperm and the egg, the sex cells,
Yeah, so you've got the male and the female gametes coming together.
to create a new individual.
Yeah, to create a new individual that carries genetic material from both parents.
Exactly.
And this ensures the continuation of the human species.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, so it's pretty fundamental.
It is pretty fundamental.
And then we have puberty,
Puberty.
which is like this
It's a transition.
this transition period. Yeah.
From childhood to adulthood.
Right, and it's not just physical.
No.
It's also emotional.
Emotional, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's when the sexual organs mature.
Right. Preparing the body for reproduction.
Right.
Yeah.
So how is this whole process initiated?
It's initiated by hormones.
Hormones.
So you have the pituitary gland in the brain,
Yeah.
which releases hormones into the bloodstream.
Okay.
And these hormones signal the testes in males and the ovaries in females
Okay.
to start producing sex hormones.
Their own sex hormones.
Yeah.
So like testosterone in males and estrogen in females.
Exactly.
And these hormones are responsible for all the secondary sexual characteristics.
That develop during puberty.
Yeah, the physical changes.
Yeah. So in males, that's things like
Facial hair.
facial hair, deepening of the voice,
Okay.
growth of the penis and testicles.
And for females, it's
For females, it's breast development,
uh-huh.
menstruation,
Widening of the hips.
widening of the hips.
Body hair.
Body hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while both males and females go through all these changes,
Right.
you're driven by different primary hormones.
Right.
And they lead to the development of different types of sex cells.
Exactly.
So estrogen in females.
Plays a key role in the development of the ova, or eggs.
Okay.
And testosterone in males is responsible for the production of sperm.
So you have eggs and sperm.
Yeah.
And these are the gametes.
Gametes.
That we talked about.
Yes.
So the sex cells
It's the cells.
of each sex.
Right.
Okay, so Let's look at those physical changes a little closer.
Okay.
For females.
So for females, you have, the breasts develop,
Mm-hmm.
their body shape changes, their hips widen.
They grow pubic and armpit hair.
They get their first period.
Their first period.
Yeah.
Also called menstruation.
Menstruation.
And they go through this rapid physical growth.
Right.
Growth spurt.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for males, what happens?
So for males, the testes and the scrotum develop.
Uh-huh.
Their voice deepens.
Yeah, that's a big one.
They grow pubic and armpit hair. They start growing facial hair.
The beard.
The beard.
Yeah.
And they also go through a rapid growth spurt.
So it's a lot of changes for both.
It's a lot of changes.
Sex is during this time.
Yeah.
And it's all preparing the body for reproduction.
For reproduction. That's the whole point.
And that leads us to the reproductive organs themselves.
The reproductive organs.
Which are the specific sex organs that are directly involved in sexual reproduction.
Right.
So let's zoom in on the female reproductive system first.
Okay.
So this is a collection of both internal and external organs.
Yeah, and most of them are internal.
Most of them are internal.
Yeah.
So the key parts we should understand are the cervix, the ovaries, the uterus, the vagina, and the fallopian tubes.
Right.
So the cervix connects the uterus to the vagina.
Right.
And it allows for menstrual blood to flow out of the body.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we have the ovaries.
Which are the primary female reproductive glands.
As their job.
Is to produce and release the egg or the ovum.
Yeah. And then those fallopian tubes, also called uterine tubes or oviducts, they connect the ovaries to the uterus.
Right.
And they're the site of fertilization.
Yeah, that's where the sperm and egg meet.
Wow. So it's like the meet place.
Yeah, the meeting place.
Yeah.
The rendezvous point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so fertilization happens in the fallopian tubes.
Typically in a specific part of the fallopian tube called the ampulla.
The ampulla.
Yeah.
Okay, and this has to happen within a specific time frame?
Yeah, because the egg is only viable for fertilization about 12 to 24 hours.
After it's released.
After ovulation.
So it's a pretty narrow window.
It is a narrow window.
So if fertilization doesn't happen within that time,
the egg will disintegrate.
The egg won't.
And you won't get pregnant.
You won't get pregnant.
Yeah.
But if it does...
then that fertilized egg travels down the fallopian tube.
To the uterus.
To the uterus.
And implants itself in the lining.
And that's when pregnancy begins.
Mm-hmm. And the uterus, also known as the womb.
The womb.
Is where the baby grows.
Yeah. It's where the fetus develops.
And it's also where the baby is delivered.
During childbirth.
Yeah. And then there's the placenta.
The placenta is a really amazing organ.
Yeah, it's like this temporary organ that develops during pregnancy.
And it's essential for the baby's development.
Because it provides
nutrients and oxygen.
From the mother's blood to the fetus.
And it removes waste products.
It's like the
lifeline.
It's like the lifeline.
Between the mother and the baby.
Yeah. And the whole period from conception to birth is called gestation.
Gestation.
Which lasts about 9 months in humans.
On average.
On average.
Yeah.
Okay. And urethra is mentioned here, but...
in females, the urethra is separate from the reproductive system.
Yeah. It has a separate function.
It's just for urine.
It just carries urine from the bladder to the outside of the body.
Exactly.
So it's not involved in reproduction.
Not in females.
Not in females. Okay.
No.
Now, the materials do mention ways to prevent pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like contraceptives.
Condoms, pills, injections.
Right. And they stress that abstinence.
Is the only 100% effective method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to recap the importance of ovulation.
Ovulation is the release of the egg from the ovary.
And without ovulation, there's no
egg to be fertilized.
Yeah, no possibility of fertilization.
Right.
And that 12 to 24-hour window.
Yeah, that's really important.
For the egg's viability after ovulation really highlights the delicate timing.
The delicate timing.
Of everything.
Yeah.
And the fallopian tubes play this crucial role.
They're not just a passive tube.
No.
They actually help the sperm and egg to meet.
Right.
And they provide the right environment for fertilization.
It's amazing how everything has to line up just right.
It is amazing.
For it to work.
Yeah.
The materials also talk about, the emotional impact of puberty.
Yeah, puberty is a time of a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And it can be really tough.
It can be tough emotionally, especially because of all the physical changes.
And the hormonal changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Everyone goes through it differently.
Everyone goes through it differently.
But it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, the placenta.
The placenta is so important.
It's the unsung hero.
It is the unsung hero of pregnancy.
It's providing all these nutrients and oxygen.
And moving waste.
It's essential for the baby's development.
Absolutely essential.
Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about the male reproductive system.
Okay.
So its primary job is the creation, storage, and transportation of sperm.
Of sperm.
So the main organs involved here are the penis, the sperm duct, the testes, the scrotum, and the urethra.
Right.
Let's start with the prostate gland.
The prostate gland is a small gland.
Yeah.
About the size of a walnut.
A walnut.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's located below the bladder.
Okay.
And it secretes fluid
that
nourishes and protects sperm.
So it's an important gland.
It's a very important gland.
Yeah. Okay, and then the epididymis.
The epididymis is a long coiled tube
Okay.
that sits on top of each testicle,
Uh-huh.
and it stores sperm.
Stores the sperm.
Yeah.
And it's also where they mature.
Yeah. So the sperm are produced in the testes,
Okay.
but they're not fully mature yet.
So they go to the epididymis.
They go to the epididymis
To finish developing.
to finish developing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the tests themselves?
The testes are the male gonads.
Male gonads.
Okay.
And they have two main functions.
Okay, what are they?
To produce sperm
Okay.
and to produce hormones.
Hormones, like
Primarily testosterone.
testosterone, which is the main male sex hormone.
Exactly.
Okay, so then there's the scrotum.
The scrotum is the sac of skin
That holds the testes.
that holds the testes.
And it's outside the body.
It's outside the body for a reason.
For a reason why.
Because sperm need to be kept
At a lower temperature
at a slightly lower temperature than body temperature.
to develop properly. To develop properly.
So it's like this built-in temperature control
Exactly.
for the sperm.
Yeah.
Okay. And the urethra is also part of the male reproductive system.
The urethra in males has a dual function.
Oh, that's right.
It carries both urine and semen.
Whereas in females,
In females, it's just for urine.
it's just for urine.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Different anatomy.
Yeah, different anatomy.
Yeah.
Okay, so the sperm duct, also called the vas deferens,
The vas deferens
What's
carries
sperm?
the mature sperm.
away from the epididymis
Okay.
towards the urethra.
Okay, so it's like the transport system
Yeah, it's the transport system for the sperm.
for the sperm.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is semen exactly?
Semen is the fluid
Yeah,
that's ejaculated
during orgasm.
during orgasm.
Yeah,
And it contains sperm.
but it's not just sperm.
It's not just sperm. It's also fluid from the prostate gland,
Okay.
the seminal vesicles,
Uh-huh.
and the bulbourethral glands.
And all these fluids together help to
Nourish and protect the sperm.
and help them to swim.
So it's all about helping those sperm
Get to where they need to go.
get to where they need to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the scrotum for a sec.
Okay.
That temperature regulation is really important
It's crucial.
for healthy sperm production.
Yeah, if the testes get too warm,
Yeah.
it can affect sperm production.
It can affect sperm quality.
Yeah, it can make men infertile.
Wow. So it's really sensitive.
It is sensitive to temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and the dual role of the urethra in males,
Right.
carrying both urine and semen.
It's an interesting design.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And it requires careful coordination.
So that urine and semen don't mix.
Yeah, so that everything comes out at the right time.
Exactly.
And then finally, the prostate gland's contribution
Yeah.
to nourishing and protecting those sperms.
It's essential.
It's essential.
Yeah.
And it plays a role in ejaculation as well.
It does.
So it's a pretty important gland.
It's a very important gland.
Yeah. And the epididymis is equally important because it allows those
It's
sperm
mature.
and to become fully capable of fertilization.
Yeah. Without the epididymis,
Yeah.
the sperm wouldn't be able to fertilize an egg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We have
We've gone deep on two very different but very important systems.
the nervous system and the reproductive system.
The nervous system is all about.
Communication and control
Yeah.
is how you interact with the world.
Yeah.
It's how your body functions.
And the reproductive system is about
Continuing the species.
continuing the species,
Making babies.
making babies,
Passing on your genes.
passing on your genes.
Yeah,
So they both have their own unique and essential roles.
they do.
And as a final thought,
Yeah.
I want you to consider how these two seemingly different systems might influence each other.
Okay.
So think about puberty,
Puberty.
which is a key event in reproductive development,
Right.
and how those hormonal surges
Or hormonal surges.
can affect brain development and emotions. Yeah. Which are both governed by the nervous system.
That's That's a good point.
It really highlights the interconnectedness
The interconnectedness.
of all the systems in our body.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something to ponder
It is.
as we wrap up this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
Yeah.
Into the inner workings
Of the human body.
of the human body.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us,
Thanks for having me.
and we'll see you next time
See you next time.
for another deep dive.
Bye.